All right, as promised to Ruben yesterday, I'm doing a something political, and I was thinking of doing an intervention video, but I'll probably do that maybe later on this week, depending on what happens. I wanted to discuss the current Democratic primary front runner, who is being estimated to win every state and defeat Trump and blah blah blah. Blah, blah. That being former Vice President Biden, who has had the been in the race now for a couple of days, and just really wowed me by just not only stuff he does, but also a lot of the mystique around his candidacy. So, for example, when he announced, and they were, they said, "Oh well, he's ran twice." They say that, and they purposefully leave out the details because, like I said before, a lot of times you can tell who someone is in a presidential campaign based off the way they were in previous races. So, for example, with Bernie being seen as the front runner now, a lot of it has to do with the fact that people who voted for him, 4 years ago, 3 years ago rather, um, have still retained their liking for him and think that he, got cheated and screwed, which they're not exactly wrong. But the point is, you get someone like that who does really, really well in the previous race, and so it encourages people who liked them that last time to want them to, to continue to back them and support them. Uh, a lot of people seem to be completely non-privy to Biden's 1988 and 2008 presidential campaigns, where in both instances he just let's see, in 88 he dropped out before the primaries were even held. I don't even think he was it was maybe really early that year that he dropped out. And in 2008 he dropped out after the Iowa primary. So very early on in both races, he, is talked about as one of the potential people to run. And oh my God, is Biden going to enter? And then he enters, and then he starts speaking and actually campaigning, and people go, yeah, whatever. And that was pretty prevalent with his new ad that he put out, the one where he was talking about Charlottesville and Trump's response and all that jazz. Um, and it's really funny because a lot of times I like to say that you have these people that grandstand, like they try to make something a big deal, not because they actually think it's a big deal, but just so they can, try to seem like they're the higher person in terms of just whether they're good or bad. And so, for example, you have a lot of these Republicans who hate Planned Parenthood, say it's a horrible, terrible institution. Oh my God, abortion is murder. But then they're the same people who support a president that, just like the one before him, was bombing babies in the Middle East with a total, I think it was like 85,000, which is, to give you an idea of how many people that is about maybe, I'd say, on a rough estimate, 35 times the number of people who died in 9/11, because that was around almost 3,000. So yeah, you can divide the numbers up. The point is, that's dozens of times more of people that have been killed, and they don't care. And it's not like, oh, they're dying from some illness that Trump, these different people in power can't do anything about. Like, you're deliberately backing a regime that wants to extinguish all these lives just for the hell of it. Um, that's an example of the virtue signal. They come here on domestic issues. Oh my God, evil liberals, and then they support that. It was the same thing with the Charlottesville video, where he goes and he turns Trump's response from from that incident and says, "Oh, look at how horrible this was," and you can't talk about my country like that. It's like, no. If you want to bring him up, and because I always say that people have they like to use basically anyone they think they can coast off of not being him to victory, in a lot of times, and it's unfortunately been shown to work in certain instances. But in reality, if you want to, make him the center focus of an ad, you attack him on actual policy substance. So you start talking about the wars, you start talking about the that tax bill, and it's the scam that was, just stuff that you know is actually based around directly having an impact on lives. Not, oh my God, look at these mean tweets and look what he said about this and look what he said. It's like, look, he could say the stupidest things in the world. The bottom line is, the record is what you have to diminish, because that's the point of running a campaign, to speak about the incumbent's record or the record of the person you're running against, along with what you want to do that's the reversal of that, your own proposals, and then win. But they're too stupid to go along with that. Um, So I think he's polling really, really high because he has that high name recognition. I mean, everybody knows who he is, just like Sanders. But that it's going to be just like with Hillary. You know, they're out of the political forefront for a couple of years, and people go, "Oh, remember that person that I kind of like, even though I really know nothing about them." I'll never get over that video Fox did where they went to, I think it was New York, and they asked people to name three accomplishments that Hillary had, like laws she sponsored, and like nobody could do it. And that's it's not funny because it means she literally didn't do anything. It's funny because it's like if you asked me to name three things Obama did before he became president, I couldn't name any. Just like laws that he sponsored in the Senate, I couldn't name any. Um, it'll be the exact same thing with Trump prior to him. Because just it was funny because they're making it seem like this is a blight on her when in reality we don't talk about laws enough. We just kind of get caught up in the personality of the candidates, and so I sponsored this bill. I'm not going to remember what its name is, but I was behind this particular piece of legislation. What the hell was it then? Just that it was funny for that reason. It was unintentionally amusing for something else, if you get my drift. And they actually thought in their heads, we're really getting her. We're showing that she's only known for her name. It's like, yeah, most of these people only known for their name. Like a lot of the people I've spoken to, when I go and criticize Obama and their supporter of his, they don't even know what the hell the Iran deal was, or the Cuban thaw. Where relations with Cuba were normalized the first time since I believe the Eisenhower years. Well, that was the last one to where his full term had regular relations. I'm pretty sure it was Kennedy that started that. But you get the point that a lot of like basic things I think of when I think of those 8 years of that tenure, a lot of people don't know, and they don't know it because they're stupid and they're idiots, and oh, you didn't pay attention to anything whatsoever. It's because when you look at the grand scheme of news, the only time they talk about certain things is when they're on the brink of either being achieved or destroyed. For example, when the INF treaty, right, when Trump announced he was going to pull out of there, how many times did you hear about the INF treaty prior to that? I think I might have seen it one time in like one documentary, and that was it. Because the media didn't talk about it. They just said it was a law that's here, but it got no discussion whatsoever. And it was actually it's even stranger to think about in hindsight because for like the last 2 years, and people already know this, Russia's been the main country that we try to make seem like they're like they're Satan themselves, right? Like, oh, they're the evil bad guys that ruin everything. But it's amusing because that would make you think, okay, and now there's going to be an increased interest in American and Russian relations to where we hear more about that particular treaty. Not a word. So I'm saying, man, people they always again the virtue signaling. Oh yeah, Russia's so bad, which is why we're not going to tell you anything about its different leaders, how it's interact with the U.S. You know, by from president to nothing. Just that's as far as we go. And what's even more comedic is the fact that I've actually spoken to a very large portion of people who identify as like not really like I think I told you my friend isn't political. I just kind of will tell him something and I'll show him like a statistic or a poll to go along with what I'm saying, and he'll usually either accept it or whatever. Like it's not. I think one of the good things about him and this other person I know is that since they're not hardcore into this stuff, they don't develop that sense of confidence to where they start dismissing polls. And like I've actually seen some Trump supporters, I think I mentioned before, he had a poll where it was like some big number of Florida people didn't want to vote for him again, and they said, oh, that's fake, oh yeah, they doctored those numbers, when they could have just said maybe they underpolled, maybe they only spoke to 1,000 people out of 4 million, and that's how they got that number. There's more stuff to this than just we don't like Trump, so we're going to put this random number up here. But again, that requires them to actually think about what the hell goes on behind the scenes to where these polls even come out the way that they do. And they're not interested in doing it. They just need anything to kind of be dismissed. So when you go around and you see all these Biden polls, I don't doubt that the majority of the people they're talking to are saying his name, but I'm not going to pretend as if there's not factors playing into that. Okay, Ruben says Biden is a Vietnam draft dodger, just like the. Hey, I said it before. I don't bemoan anyone for draft dodging. I do bemoan them for wanting to then start wars that put other people's life in risk. Though, like I thought that was really funny about Trump's national security advisor, Bolton, where he was like, I don't want to go to over to Vietnam for patties or some kind of stuff, just like why he dodged the draft. And you think, oh, he values human life. That's why he's going to get us out of these wars. Oh no, he wants to start war with Iran and North Korea and do regime change in Venezuela. So never mind. That was a miscalculation on my part. And it was really sad too because I remember like during the election cycle where people were saying, "Oh, Trump wants to get out of the war." It's like, yeah, but I mean, the people he's surrounded by want to stay in them, and they're all going to pressure him if he gets in there to stay there. And you've already seen what's happened. Um, and it was really sad because, like I said, since people don't really pay attention to politicians that aren't the president, like actually remember them and know who they are. When he picked Bolton, I immediately knew that's a person who still favors wars, still won't admit Iraq was a mistake, and is the perfect antithesis to the idea that there was ever a chance for any of these conflicts to be willfully ended by Obama's successor. But they don't want to believe that. They just want to think, oh well, he's gonna not really do it. It's like no, he put him in that position so he could influence him, and he does. Okay, Ruben says Biden openly said that he still supported the Vietnam War. Anyway, he said the war came instead of. Oh, he said he wore camo instead of tie dye. Yeah. By the way, have you noticed, Ruben, that the person with the most, and it's weird in the presidential elections, the person with the most experience loses. Like recently, where McCain had more than Obama, he lost. Dole had more than Clinton, he lost. Um, Kerry had more than Bush, he lost. I think Gore had. I'm not sure. I have to remember. I forgot. Like in the last several of these, I remember the 2012 one was actually. I think somebody said it was the first one where neither nominee was ever in the military. Like how that was a big deal because it was like it broke this big long-standing tradition of having people that if they weren't like a general or something, at least served for some brief stint. It's really crazy to think about that because you a lot of times people like to say, "Oh, this is the first time." It's like, yeah, but that's the point that both candidates over and over and over again every single year both had military experience up until 2012, and then the ones after that didn't have any, and then we've had two straight where no one has any military experience. We might be headed for a third one if Bernie gets the nomination. And like I said, I don't care because like I got accused when I was talking about the hot dog vendor governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, because he went on stage and was like, "Oh yeah, you guys need to have incentives with your degrees for like wanting jobs." Like, wait a second, you're the same person who became one of very few governors to in recent times, if not the only one, to win an election as governor when you have no degree, like nothing past high school, and you won that. And then you're going to tell me what requirements and things I need to have to be impressive and competitive and all this inspirational stuff that means nothing because he's not going to tackle the actual problem. But I had a person who said, "Oh, that means you think people without education are stupid." Like, no, no, no. Because I said before, I think the modern education system post high school, right, is a scam. They want you to go to these schools to where you can get you're supposedly going to be able to get a higher paying position, but then you spend loads and loads of money that you're not even supposed to have on trying to get the degree to possibly be interesting for these higher positions. So you spend cash to get something that the whole point of getting was so you could make more cash. It's no one but me was like, okay, that's really dumb. But like I said, I still think that under the right circumstances, it's a good place to go to. And even if someone doesn't, I don't care. Like all this different stuff is just it's so inconsequential to me. I don't care if someone was a senator, they were a congressman, if they were in the military or went to school. Just none of it matters because when a candidate is campaigning, that's about the here and now. That's not about what this person did 10 or 20 years ago as far as like their background or whatnot. So that's why it's really weird that just people try to make that. And again, it's more virtue signaling because I care so much about the candidate's background. That's why I have nothing to say about Greg Gianforte The was it? I think he's from Wyoming. The congressman who beat up his that guy that was asking him the question. It's like every day you guys do this. I was like, how the hell did they let him win? I loved when they put his mugshot out and his team tried to stop him. It's like, no. It's like nobody cares anyway, man. All kind of people have these weird pictures. Ruben says standardized testing has really damaged the American public school system, and that doesn't even include the budget cuts. Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's terrible. But like I said, when I did my video on why it was stupid to get rid of the education department, because the whole point of it was saying that the issue of education is so important, it needs to be at the highest office, right? Like it's more of a post that is ceremonial. It's the U.S. officially recognizing education as this massive, major part of living in the country, right? And I still, I had the person who told me that I was saying they were really opposed to indoctrination. It's like, dude, just relax. Come on, man. Oh, you say hello to Zaya, and let me say hello to O'Donohue. Ruben says a dead pimp won in Nevada. I remember that. And again, people still want a virtue signal. They still want to tell you that, oh man, if this person doesn't do this, whatever. But I was trying to say that I think Biden's gonna. And then what's worse for him is that if this race was like last time, where it was just like basically two people running, and it still might turn out to be that way. We don't know yet because we haven't had the actual vote start. But if this were like last time, I would actually be a lot more intimidated because he would have these donors that would come to him, and then he would have that group of people who don't like Sanders for, like just because whatever, all side with him. But instead, they're going to keep splitting themselves among these different candidates. So it'll be really nice to where, he has this like thing in his head of, oh yeah, these voters are going to like me. And then nope, it's the complete reverse, where instead they only like you because you're not the other person who they don't like. Not even for an actual reason. They just think that like I said before, they don't want to accept the fact that the candidate is who made them lose to Trump. So they have to, go after the people who ran in the primary, because apparently we all would have like forgotten every bad thing about Clinton and voted for her no matter what if somebody didn't run in the primary. They have to tell themselves that. So it's not going to turn out pretty for him or his team. I'm just debating whether he drops out before they start voting or shortly into it. I'm just thinking where would that cutoff be at? I really believe it's probably somewhere. Here's what's likely to happen. Either Sanders wins Iowa or somebody else, right? And then, Biden is like further down, and then he's like, oh, well, I can still pull this off in New Hampshire because I have, blue collar people, and then it's going to come. That's how everyone knew she was going to be terrible once she won. Oh yeah, I did a video on her. I said the lesser of two evils, and then I had some guy tell me, what are you talking about? And I'm like, dude, you guys keep telling me you hate Trump, so why the hell are you voting for a Democrat who, supported him, who votes with him over 60% of the time? And like, she's only been in there now, right, for what is it, 4 months, 3 months, and she's already proven she sucks. She voted for that stupid attorney general, the one that everybody, all the liberals now hate. There's other. I know she voted against the Green New Deal. There's a multitude of votes that she's had that are not good, and unfortunately, because we live in an era where people don't follow their senators and like what they're actually doing, they just kind of say, "Vote for the Democrat." Hey, we're stuck with her. Only good thing is that Arizona is kind of, I would identify as a purple state, like maybe leaning more toward red. So at least when she runs again, she'll likely either lose or maybe just barely win. There's hope to get rid of her, even if it means we get stuck with another Republican, which is basically what she already is. I still can't get over like sharing the military budget video and telling people, look, I don't like the fact that the Democrats try to tell you in their little stupid speeches, we're not like the other team, but then you go and look at their individual members voting just like the other guys. And I can't wait for the re-election campaign. I believe in bipartisanship and thinking independently. No, you believe in doing whatever the other side does. Quit lying. The only thing she's good at, let's see, besides being another sellout trash candidate, is triggering evangelicals by dressing like a hoe. Yeah, I remember for her, what do you call her swearing in, where they were. I think it was the swearing in where, because it was like, it was weird to have Pence's homophobic self like standing next to her, and also there was some other time where she was wearing some like boots that went all the way up to here, all the way up there, like around here. I just remembered it was a big scandal. And again, it's only a scandal because people who don't pay attention to what these people are actually doing are pissed off, like, just at what stuff looks like. The only thing she's good at is triggering evangelicals by dressing like a hoe. Yeah, it's really weird, man. I remember like someone who actually told me that it was sexist to talk about the way these female politicians dress. I'm like, wait a second. I didn't see anyone saying anything nasty about the way that all those other ones were. So maybe it's less about the gender and more about the choice of attire of that particular individual, Like they always try to make everything seem so sexist and bigoted, and it's like, dude, just look at that. We're looking at this particular person, and we're letting all these other people who happen to be female get away with their attire because it's business and it's appropriate. It's stuff, it's stuff you would think of people who are going to work are putting on, right? And then they're focusing on this particular person because it's just a weird looking outfit. If I'm a senator, right, and I show up with some rainbow shirt, uh, and my tie, flip the other way around, you're gonna say, "What the hell is that? What is he doing?" Now, again, I don't care because the whole topic of how they dress is something that other people focus on. I just respond back to it, but I do hate it when they try to say, "Oh, that's you being sexist." Like, no, it's just that it's only this one person we're talking about. I know you get it, Ruben. You don't have the outrage culture. And like I said, if these people really wanted to be outraged about something, they'd be pissed off that she voted for the attorney general that they all hate. I don't remember. Did any of the Democrats vote for Sessions except maybe Manchin? I have to go look it up. I really don't remember. I'm gonna have to refresh my memory because that's funny to me. Like the fact that she would actually, like have these people who go, "Oh yeah, we don't want the bigots dictating our laws in the White House," which is why I'm gonna vote for the bigots attorney general. I don't remember either. Let me see. I'm gonna look it up right now. That's another one of Biden's best buddies. Oh yeah, by the way, somebody got mad because I said, Biden had all these great things to say about McCain. Like, no, it's not because they became friends or anything like. It's the fact that they agree on all this stuff, so of course they'd be friends. Like just they don't get the overall point of stuff. They try to gas you up. Let me see here. Okay, the vote was 52 to 47. I know that Sessions himself didn't vote. Can I get? Well, no one's gonna actually tell me what the. Is it really lame? Okay, who voted for Sessions for AG? If they were smart, they would link you to the what do you call it? The article, not the article, the Senate.gov website where they have the roll call votes. But I know they don't like to do that. And then this website. Oh, okay. The one Democrat who voted in support of Sessions was Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Of course. So it was a party line vote. So I do love that Rand voted against Barr. Like I just that was great. I've had my problems with him on domestic issues, but he was absolutely he did something I really liked in that particular, because that's stuff that actually is bucking your party and not like going along with whatever just to get along. Because Manchin's whole thing is, oh, I'm going to appeal to conservatives in my state by acting like one of them. And I do like how right after Biden announced all those, because there was an article, I'll read your thing in a moment, Ruben, but there was an article that came out about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was like, oh, only 4 Senate Democrats have endorsed, other people have endorsed people for president, and then after Biden comes out, like 7 or 8 of them endorsed him. It's like, yeah, of course they did. They don't, they all. That's a little clique. Okay, Manchin also voted for Bush's minion Kavanaugh. Yeah, told you Manchin is like he was a magician in that last election. I had one person on Twitter who said, I don't even care if he wins or not. And I was like, that's the kind of talk I want. That's, like where you get to a point where you start looking at the candidate and their own terrible record. But the problem was I knew that person was just overinflating the Kavanaugh vote. You know what I mean? Like just like with Collins, right? The reason I don't dislike her as much as a lot of my, fellow progressives or whatever is because she's been very consistent on wanting to get out of Yemen. And I think that's a bigger thing than one little crappy judge sitting on the Supreme Court for decades. And again, my mindset was that even if Kavanaugh failed, we would have been stuck with one of those conservative crappy judges anyway. And then I told you before that they do this thing where they get so pissed off and they hate you forever if you do something they don't like. But then if you do something they like, they act like you don't exist. You had what's her name, Murkowski, vote against Kavanaugh. Do you see any liberals going, "Yay, thank you, Senator. We're gonna vote for you when you run in, or we're gonna donate to you in Alaska. Yeah, great. Oh, what a wonderful person you are." No, not at all. I mean, I don't get them. And see, it's sad because Collins and Murkowski are probably the only two Republicans that I actually like. Them and Rand are the only three that I probably wouldn't mind like just staying in there. Like even if there's a Democrat, if there's just one of these average run of the mill people, I'd be fine with either way it went. I just find it funny that the ones that I think actually kind of are sort of impartial or try to not just be flunkies for their party, if they vote one way you don't like, that's it. Like I remember Obama's little stupid quote about the firing squad and how progressives like to go after people who don't act the way they want them to. And I've seen a lot of it be credible and just kind of the way they say certain things about certain candidates. See, I see someone say that donated to Heidi Heitkamp or however you spell her name for the Kavanaugh vote. Oh yeah, and then she voted against it and then got smashed. And then Fox was like, "Yeah, noticeably the only Democrat who won in one of the states that Trump was able to win or whatever the hell was the one who voted for Kavanaugh, Senator Joe Manchin." Off topic, I'm looking at the ages of these people running for office. Is everyone over 70 years old? Does anyone question this? LOL. You have a lot of young people that run. You gotta understand, David. If it wasn't like I've seen so many people who if you ask them why don't you run for office, it costs too much, and you've got two big things that factor into why the older people run. It's money and name recognition. So let's say I'm someone who is known throughout my whole state, right? That is people just instantly recognize my name. They know my channel. They know just that's the thing in this alternate realm I'm painting. And let's say I have hundreds of millions of which you actually wouldn't need to run for senator here, or just you wouldn't need to run for some statewide office anyway. I don't think from what I've seen of campaigns. But let's say I have millions of dollars that are expendable and I can just throw around and play with, right? I would run in a heartbeat for whatever position I was seeking. But my point is that since I don't have those things, and since most people that are of the younger age do not have those things or anything close to it, hey, they just say screw it. I mean, personally, if I did, I would just have it to where you get a group of grassroots supporters, and then you just go house by house with like some little billboards that have your position on. Not billboard, like a little plastic card. I would do something like that. If that answers your question, I hope it did, David. I hope I didn't, mansplain to you, as I've seen some people try to say that my male dominance has caused you to feel like someone has treated you so poorly, which is absolutely insane. Say, man, that patriarchy stuff needs to go. Like, I've seen so many people who don't like Sanders or Biden, and they're like, "We need a woman now." It's like, dude, look, should we have a chick at this point? Of course. Should it be what determines whether you vote for someone or not? Hell no. I don't know why they can't just say, "Hey, I'm supporting this person. I hope they nominate a woman. If they don't, oh well, one of them will get it eventually." Like, I don't get it. Like the fact that you have a bunch of them running now should be seen as a good thing, and especially since most of them are other. I think Warren's the oldest one. Most of them can run next time or the time after that. I mean, these people act like what is this big rush hurry thing? And it's sad because I realized it's not them, just clamoring for a chick so much. It's just they want to kind of like remind themselves, oh hey, you know, you're the status quo because you look like the people who had this position before. Not that not what you're saying and how if you're a Sanders person or a Gravel or Tulsi or whoever, just any of the actual progressive people. Not because what you're saying is so radically different, even though it is. Oh no, we're going to go off your appearance and we're going to disqualify you that way. Again, this is them being lazy. And again, I say that as someone who's not a fan of Biden at all, but is saying that if you're going to dismiss him on anything, it should be the record and not the anything else that is not tangible to actually being what he did in office. Unfortunately, thanks to the era of personality over politics, we're stuck with this. So we're just going to get more and more of the same. It never ends, man. I swear. And then it's weird because like they'll take these different polls and they'll say, okay, well, this person's leading. But then I go online, all I see is a bunch of people who don't like the person. And like I've always thought that was so strange where, it's like these candidates that no one likes, just like with Hillary and Trump, they had the lowest approval ratings of any presidential nominees on election day in American history. And I was like, how in the hell did these two unpopular candidates win the primaries on both sides? Like, but then you have to remember we have over 300 million people in the U.S. and in both primaries you had about 16, 17, 18 million vote, 30 million, some number that is in the tens of millions, right? So it means most people didn't even get a say in who these two major parties picked. Now, they have to factor in who can and can't vote, but the bottom line is it still is a small number of people actually showing up and participating in the process. But then, they ask, okay, well, then why don't you don't vote? It's like, well, then look what you just offered them. You have Trump supporters saying that the person you've had in office is terrible. And then you have supporters of the other person saying you're going to get stuck with the exact same thing if you vote for us. So if you want change, realistically, the only way you can get it is by voting for the person that's not the one saying they're going to do the same thing. That's why you don't have many vice presidents win the election. Like I think the last one was the older Bush, who was, in my opinion, very, 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 very underrated, and is going to always be tainted by having a really stupid son. You get my point that it's like you can't. Whenever you run on keeping things the same, it's a recipe for disaster. That's why Klobuchar is getting destroyed in the polls, and she'll probably drop out around Iowa. I just love thinking about when she saw that poll in Iowa where she was in like third place or whatever. And she's like, I can win this. And then she gets in and she just stays the same place month after month. That's great. She's like, I can win. I can achieve victories. Like, yeah, you can win all right. You can win this. You can win a stagnant campaign that stays in the same place day after day, week after week, year after year, which is exactly what she has, and it will exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get why these people are even in here. Most of them. Gore won the 2000 election. The establishment forced Bush on us anyway. Oh well, look. I'm not saying he didn't get the popular vote. I'm not saying the election wasn't stolen. What I am saying is that there are factors involved that cause a person who's trying to win that are just shown throughout tradition. So in an era where people feel screwed over by a system, and you say I'm going to be just like the system that screwed you over, hey, you end up getting shafted for the person who's saying I'm going to be the opposite, the one with no record of it or anything. That's why, like I said, that I just think that there's so much stuff that people don't pay attention to, like with these elections, with the candidates. I mean, like I said before, the reason I thought Trump was a scammer was because all the stuff he would say, he didn't even have a real record on, other than like putting out a tweet. Like I've seen a couple of public figures, like they hold rallies, they try to, just people that don't even hold office, they do things with their profile and position of influence in society to try and make a change. I never saw him do that in all the years of just, what was it, like 17 years of being around and him not running for president. Never. The only thing I saw him on was The Apprentice, and then like suddenly, oh, this is now a political reformer. It's like, man, come on, you guys knew what you were getting. But again, that should prove to you that I don't care about if someone's held office before, and that you can have a person who's never held office actually be convincing. Depending on what their own past support for something is. Like if I see someone support both of Sanders' campaigns and tell you about how corrupt all these other candidates are, I'm going to think the person's progressive. They can prove me wrong if they get in office and do the reverse, but I can always vote them out if I feel dissatisfied with the way they are. And it's like I said, my own congressperson isn't even that good, and I guarantee you most of their constituents couldn't name a single thing they've done since being in office for, I think, maybe 5-6 years, some a long enough period of time to actually do something. But I still end up putting up with this because, hey, they've chosen for it to be this way. WrestleMania 23. I first knew of Dump during the time he was in WWE. Yeah, sharing your experience. But yeah, I'm glad Ruben's got all his favorite political characters around. He's got his hoe dressing senator and Dump. I like how I actually did have someone who was like, "What do you think of Rosenstein resigning?" I'm like, who the hell even cares about him? Like, the only reason people are worried about him is the same reason they're worried about Barr. All Mueller. Like, that's it. It's the only reason. Other than that, no one would care. And again, I don't get why they pretend that also Jeff Sessions. Yeah. Well, like I said, he made himself irrelevant to that Mueller stuff by recusing himself, and that made him the target of Trump's bashings and whatnot. And then Trump got rid of him. It is funny to watch like old clips of him where he's like, "This is the Trump era," and then no, he's only going to last not even half of it. Like even if, let's say it's only 4 years, right? Which I'm not sure if Trump gets reelected or not. Anyway, I said before, it depends who he runs against. But let's say it's only 4 years. You weren't even in the Trump era for half of it. That's why I hate like those secretaries leaving every 2 seconds, because it's like their way of just escaping responsibility for being part of the sinking ship. Like, imagine if presidents resigned as much as these secretaries. They get out of the way. They leave. Like, yeah, I'm out of here, man. So plug. Sorry, I'm messing with this thing right here. Wow, that actually came out. Yeah, I hope you get what I'm saying, that that all these people are just going out of their way to try and push certain things. Like, it's incredible to me that you have a vice president who is only being propped up for their name recognition, because no one can actually tell you what he did as VP. And then somehow they don't think that's wrong, like that's a person who is not serious about these things. They've like, I would actually compare Biden to the Senate Majority Whip. What is it? I don't know what the name is, but it's the number 2 Republican in the Senate, Thune. One day I was looking at stuff of him, and I said to myself, why have I like never heard of this person ever, other than when he was getting touted as a possible potential presidential candidate? And I realized Oh yeah, it's because this person has spent their entire career just going along with whatever the status quo is, whether it was with their own party, whether it was with his state of South Dakota, and yet for some reason people love him. He got reelected. I think I mentioned in his last reelection campaign, no Democrat even ran against him. It was the same thing with Sessions in Alabama, where they literally won with 100% of the vote. Like the party didn't even try to compete with them. And I guess in that respect, he'd be similar to Klobuchar because she's popular in Minnesota for no reason. I mean, it's weird. Oh yeah, all of them, man, they're out of there. You hit the nail on the head. You named a whole bunch. Did you put? You didn't put Mattis, who is, I think I told you, the only one I actually like and was disappointed to see leave. Trump still doesn't have. I keep realizing Trump still doesn't have a defense secretary. That's Jesus Christ, these cabinet positions, and then they're going to be out apparently after next year anyway if he loses the election. Yeah, it's like everyone that I don't like stays. Like DeVos is still there. Okay, Zinke left, so that's not entirely true. But you get my point. I just want her to go. Terrible education secretary. Nightmare education secretary. Horrifying education secretary. That's literally the story of bribing your way to a job. Notice how Dump immediately changed his mind about Syria after he got rid of Mattis. Yeah. That's what I thought was weird. Like Mattis got what he wanted. We're still there. I told you before, I hate talking to like every time I bring up Syria or think about it, I just get more upset because like I was telling these people, my problem with this issue, and I had that guy come over here and start talking about the economy and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with it, to like obfuscate from the topic at hand because they know, like in their heads, yeah, this person lied. It's like just go away. Basically, is just what I want to say. See, I think DeVos the most. Yeah, she's the worst one. I mean, like I said, Mattis was qualified for his position. She literally bought her way to that job. Same thing with Tillerson, as who you brought up earlier. Ran against. Yeah, I know. You can go and look up the video. I endorsed her when she started running, the year before last. Yeah, she got like 30% of the vote or something. It was really good. It's really disappointing to see that happen, though. Well, hopefully she runs against what's her name, Capito, the other one. Even though I would love if she had beat Mattis, not Mattis, Manchin, and then Ojeda, who I'm sure you're familiar with. He ran and beat Capito. Like, oh my God, West Virginia would be my favorite state all of a sudden. Yeah, but instead, people who are really good and have the right ideas get stuck and regulated to side posts and positions of non-power. Like, I just keep thinking about that Senate seat after either Harris gets off, and she's not going to stay on there for a long amount of time. She's going to be on there for maybe one more term, and that's it. And when Feinstein, when that dinosaur gets off of there, I do think about who's going to replace them, and it saddens me that it's going to be one of these corporate people that doesn't like nobody knows for anything other than just the positions they have. Like nobody can tell you what Garcetti, the mayor of LA, what he's done for the city, or just like you get my point that like these people don't do anything. That's why with Newsom, even if I'm not, I'm kind of convinced he's another one of those probably neoliberal people. I at least gave him credit for being an early, outspoken supporter of the legalization of gay marriage, because that was something that actually was courageous in terms of the party being like, oh, let's be bigots to appeal to people. So I feel like we give people a fair shake on here. That's my opinion. All right, Ruben, I think I'm going to close it out. I hope you enjoyed. I've tried to, offer some stuff here, give some insight and whatnot. If you can do me a favor, because I saw the tweet you sent me, could you send me like your schedule so I can try to stream when you're, available. Since you are the Patreon guy, the person who actually took this all the way to back me financially, and we try to do things for those that take the extra step. Mnuchin is also my most hated. No, he's probably he's definitely like in that bottom tier. And like I said, it befuddles me that people who love Harris like to pretend like she doesn't have any connection to him. Like they really think that when she was AG, she was so stupid and like no idea that he was foreclosing and kicking people out of their houses, and her own staff found stuff on him. She's like, oh, that's just a nice little boy named Mnuchin. We can leave him alone. He won't do anything with his power and privilege. It's like, that's why I said I live in the Twilight Zone. Like just basic stuff people don't want to admit to. Oh, they'll go after Sanders in 2 seconds, man. But double standards is the way of the modern era. That's why if you're a woman running for president, people go, "Oh my God, what a great thing, yay!" And then if you're a guy and you happen to be Caucasian, we don't need any more of you. What the hell's wrong with you? I have to like buy a taco and go to rallies with it in between my legs to get people to actually like think like rational human beings and get focused on the issues. Oh my God, it's just so dumb. But yeah, thanks for showing up, Ruben. Have a good day. I appreciate the other people that came. I would have liked if you said something, but hey, you can't always get what you want.